Welcome, Yuvraj. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And we are going to talk about customer experience. Um, Yuvraj, we are just about to begin. So, why don't you introduce yourself quickly and then we start straight with the questions?
Absolutely, Arena. I'm glad to be here today. Glad to be talking to you. It has been quite a while since we last talked, but yes, a quick intro for me. I am the Director for Customer Experience and the DPO for Hubilo. Uh, Prior to that, I have worked with IBM, American Express, and all throughout this while, the only domain where I've been focusing is how to go ahead and care for your customers. And that is the reason. The moment you mentioned customer experience, I had a smile. That is one of my favorite topics. So let's
Yes,
talk about it.
customer experience is so important because happy customers, they bring more customers and they're the true ambassadors of the company and big fans.
Mhm.
And I know that at Hubilo, you also refer to customer experience as client experience. So why don't you tell me a little bit what's the difference between the customer and a client?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And thank you for observing that, bringing that up. So I'll tell you one thing. If you Google client experience and if you Google customer experience, Google is probably going to give you the exact same set of results. Probably SEO plays a part in that. But then the reason we refer to customers as clients inside of Hubilo is because we have a very important aspect as to personalization. We have designated customer experience managers, or rather, client experience managers. So it's more of a psychological effect that a person needs to be more accountable when they are designated towards a client and not just customers in general. So every person cares a bit more for them. And that is the whole reason we refer to it as client experience managers.
Fantastic. And yeah, I'm also now building my event on Hubilo. I hope to launch it in about 3 weeks. And I also have my personal client experience manager. But yeah, we'll talk about later what it means to have a personal client experience manager. But let's talk first about the basics.
Mhm.
What's the definition of client experience?
What is the definition of client experience? If I put it really simply, Irina, it's less to do with the things that you do during the process. It's more to do towards that what exactly is it that a customer or a client feels from the moment they landed on your website for the first time. They went through the sales process. They made the decision to buy. They started using your product, and most importantly, what is the feeling you leave them with after they're done using your product? So that entire journey from point A to Z, the summary of that is what I would define as client experience. So that
Yeah.
entire journey and how you curate it is the domain of client experience.
Yes, I like this definition because I think many people think about client experience as customer service, and
Mhm.
then it becomes a thing when something goes wrong, right? So you have a problem, you are on a website, you purchased something, you're at an event, and then something goes wrong, and then you contact the support team. So definitely, it's not just when something goes wrong. It's definitely a process that starts
Mhm.
from the very very beginning and goes until the very
Absolutely.
end, and it has to be smooth throughout. But what's the difference between customer experience and customer support?
I'll tell you the fundamental difference between customer experience and customer support, and you actually said it out very clear that customer service is something wherein there is a problem and a customer is contacting. Uh, that leads to the fact that customer service is majorly and mostly reactive, while customer experience operates on a much more proactive note. So uh, I'll, I mean, you have worked in events for a very long time. You've worked in hospitality, and you must remember one of the basic rules during all of our training sessions was you need to feel empathy. Now, when you feel empathy as in terms of customer service, Irina, you're feeling that how would you feel when you are facing the same problem and reaching out to a customer service representative, and how you would want to be answered. sorry, in customer experience, empathy goes to another level altogether. In customer experience, empathy is that what do you expect out of a product or a service, and what kind of problems do you foresee by putting yourself from the customer's perspective, and then prepping for those problems, prepping for those issues, prepping for those successes proactively for the customers. So the fundamental difference is proactive versus reactive.
This is such a great definition, and I'm going to quote this in the post summary of this conversation: reactive versus proactive. What are the most common pain points when it comes to customer experience when we talk about virtual and hybrid events?
The most common pain points from the perspective of customer experience, again, as I said, it is more about prepping and being proactive. So during an event, there are anticipatory moments for the attendees, wherein they're anticipating an action from the organizer. For example, when they're trying to log in, they're anticipating getting inside the event. And the moment you face a hurdle, you ring an alarm right there as an attendee. Now, an alarm that has been rung by an attendee for our organizer is evidently an alarm being raised by the organizer to us, right? So we prep our clients a lot in terms of execution readiness. So the most common pain points, I would say, the anticipatory moments that I mentioned, logging into the event, or in a hybrid scenario, accessing the event. So access management, the check-in process, and the second one would be waiting for a session to start. So that means your live stream going live, right? Even in this, our conversation right now, the people who may have joined probably 1 minute before were expecting us to go live right on time. And if it is not happening, there is restlessness coming in. So going live with your sessions, login or access to the event platform or the venue. And the third one is any sort of networking activities to begin. So for example, if you're sitting on a lounge, you're expecting someone else to join in. Once someone else joins in, what you're expecting is a conversation to start. And if it does not start, there is probably a technical or an organizational thing that needs to be looked into. So these are the most common pain points.
Definitely. And you mentioned we have a lot of people watching right now. So if you have any questions, or if you want to share what customer experience means to you, so let us know in the comments below, because it's very individual for everyone. And I think that everyone also in a different customer journey depending on their experience, for example, with virtual event, because some people are more tech savvy and some people it's their first time, for example, accessing a virtual platform. So it's really different to have empathy, as you mentioned, and to understand your customer and where they are in their journey. I would like to ask you now about, and just before that, I really liked that you mentioned that kind of this waiting time, because especially in the virtual environment, you don't want to let your customers wait, because waiting time, it's just you risk just losing the customer and for the customer not coming back. So really things need to really go very, very quick on virtual. And I really appreciate when the organizers start things on time. It's super important. So you kind of already touched on this, right? That the customer experience is starting from the very, very beginning, from the first marketing message until the very end, until people leave your venue or complete the event, virtual event. But at what stage should customers start working with the customer experience manager? Because people, and I just share this from myself, people are very busy and they say, okay, so we have a customer experience manager who can support us anytime. And then, things get a bit procrastinated because people are busy and technology in general can be very overwhelming. So people might be a bit slow to start with working with the customer experience manager. But at what point of time would you recommend for organizers to start working with the customer experience manager?
So if you're working with a customer experience manager, my suggestion is you should start operating with them as considering them as a part of your team right off the bat, because when you are new to a product, when you are new to a technology, on the other side of the table, you have a person who has been doing this for at least 10, 15, 20 other events, other clients, right? So they are much more well versed with what exactly their product is capable of, where exactly their product has gaps, where exactly their product excels, right? So if I have to go ahead and put the life cycle in three stages, there is the event planning, there is the event execution, and then there is the post-event debrief. A customer experience manager would play an important role in all three of these stages. So my suggestion, start working with them right off the bat, because at the end of the day, the reason you have been allotted with a client experience manager is so that they can go ahead and boost you in your entire customer journey.
Yeah. And so what would the support look like at the very beginning?
At the very beginning, so at Hubilo, we follow a very simple practice that we do not want to turn this into something that takes you on a bad nostalgic trip of your college classes, wherein you have to sit down, listen to a professor for 1.5 hour talking about something new, because at times technologies can be overwhelming, right? So what we do is, in the beginning, we give them a lot of on-demand learning mechanisms so that they can know about the basics of the product themselves. And then the first time when they connect with a customer, so they are connecting with not just a client experience manager, but also an account manager who deep dives into what are you trying to do with Hubilo? What does your event look like? What is the terminology you want to use during your event? What are the success areas? What are the areas which are not relevant to you? Because I don't want to sit down and explain you 30 minutes about booths when you're not using them in the system. So the first phase is onboarding at the very beginning, in which we go ahead and onboard you, one on demand, two on live. Live is mostly problem solving, so it's a much more productive way. And then we spend a lot of time on execution readiness, because we want our organizers to be self-capable of executing everything and being prepared for it. Because until unless that preparedness is there, you wouldn't know what is the right time to reach out to your client experience manager, when to raise an alarm, what is something which is out of the pattern. So the very beginning of the sport looks like this.
Yeah, and so I'm building my vet now in Hubilo, and I am in the process, and I've started. I received an email with all the necessary links, explanation videos, my login details, and the platform is quite intuitive. So I definitely already started playing around, scheduling some sessions. Now I will have my call next week with the customer experience manager, who will help me polish a couple of things, and yeah, then it will be pretty much ready to be launched. And let's talk about the during event support. I'm having my live session. What can go wrong? We know the common things that go wrong is usually the stream that doesn't work, where the customer experience team can support during the event.
Absolutely. So, so the pre-event support, as I mentioned, has a lot more to do with organizers' education and readiness. The during event support starts practically with dry runs. So we conduct extensive dry runs with our customers, in which we go live, we test out the sessions, we explain them the mechanisms, how everything works. We do an event check on internally. So even if the customer does not request for it or does not ask for it, it is more of an internal task for a client experience managers to conduct a check of the entire thing, the settings of the event, the front end of the event, the dashboard of the event, if everything is good or not. So we are able to proactively anticipate and reach out to the customer that, hey, your event is supposed to be restricted, but I think for some reason it was left as public. So these kind of issues we want to avoid. Now, during event support is majorly about being available.
Yeah.
Because as you said, I mean, there are a few, recognized pain points, the stream not going live, login issues. Now, you have already been prepped as an organizer about those during the pre-event phase. Now, during event, there are n number of things which can go haywire because at the end of the day, you're dealing with technology, right? So the infrastructure has a lot to do with that. Internet goes down, power goes down, something like that happens, what to do, when to do. Now, during event support, uh, as I said, is majorly about being available because, Irina, you have been an event professional for a very long time. If I tell you that you have to go through an IVR, click on 5 different keys in order to reach out to someone who can help you after a 1 minute wait, you don't want to do that when the stage is burning down. You want to be able to point at someone and tell them to go ahead and put the fire down, right? And that is precisely what we try to do even when we are remotely available. So your client experience managers logs in on your event day for the first 2 hours, make sure that everything is going up right, everything is going smoothly, and is available on immediate communication channels such as WhatsApp, Slack, or if there's any other channels that you prefer. For example, a few of my client experience managers, they're also on Discord. They're also on Kakao Talk, which is the WhatsApp for South Korea, I guess. So I've been there myself. So that is what the during event support looks like majorly. Even if we see something that attendee is facing an issue, we are able to go ahead, quickly connect with them, get things sorted out. I mean, at times it is just something as simple as that they might have an ad blocker on, which is not allowing the media playback. We connect with them, we get that shut down, and things start going happy-go-lucky for that attendee.
Yeah, so you're familiar with everything that can go wrong, and I had to smile because you said like it can happen that you think the event is not live, but it's actually live, and this is like the most embarrassing moment that can happen. And I've seen this happen, and
It has happened to me, believe it or not.
yeah, this is really can be avoided to the right support on site. Yeah, and also really great. What you mentioned is about like having WhatsApp availability. This is like so amazing. Be where your customers are, because some customer support aspects of many big global companies is like fill out a form, and like who has time to fill out a form, So really, like WhatsApp, Slack, it's just so easy and convenient. Yeah, so if you have any questions among our audience about customer experience, please let us know. And we move on then with the next question. Let's talk about after event support, because when the event finishes, everyone can breathe. We've done it, we made it. But actually, the work is not done yet. There is a lot of communication to follow, to update maybe the live streams, maybe they edit the live streams, because a lot of material actually stays on the platform for on demand. And there is the most important, well, for me personally, maybe very, very important aspect is the ROI, the how many people viewed it, which sessions were the most popular. So let's talk about analytics, and of course what it's provided as part of the post-event support. So let's start with number one. What is provided as post-event support?
Absolutely. So, see, we also need to look at the customers or that particular event's life cycle, that from the moment the customer was brought inside the Hubilo ecosystem, the client experience manager has been working right from that moment with the customer. By the time the event is over, the fires have been put out during the execution, the D-Day is done. By this time, it's not only the customer, but the client experience manager as well, who understands that what is truly important to you as an organizer of that event. So the post-event support is majorly about how long do you want to keep the platform live after the event is gone, what kind of things you're looking forward to doing on the platform. If you want to keep the platform live, but you need ideas as to how you can go ahead and engage your audience post event, a client experience manager can certainly go ahead and give you a few tips on there. The other thing is debriefing the analytics that are provided by the platform. See, the thing is, the product, not just Hubilo, any product can throw anything which has been recorded in terms of numbers to you as analytics. How many clicks were there, how many profile views were there, how many networking meetings took place, right? And in Hubilo as well, what we try to do is, even from our exhaustive and proactive perspective, we provide you a lot of analytics, your customer experience manager, your client experience manager, and as I mentioned, the account manager. These are the two people who can actually help you navigate through the n number of analytics which are provided to you to the analytics which actually matter. So, for example, if an event is all about networking, I don't want to talk about how many times a banner was viewed. I want to talk about how many meetings took place, how long were those meetings, how many meaningful connections took place, how many times people went ahead and reacted, commented, asked questions inside the sessions. Those are the analytics I would focus upon as a client experience manager. So that support of debriefing your events, uh, the support in terms of what you are doing with your event property after the event is done, that is what comprises the post-event support stage in the life cycle.
You brought such a good point. What do you do with your event after it's done? Because you worked so hard, you created all this content, you had so many speakers and sessions, and this content, in my opinion, now it's time to repurpose it, to create blog
Mhm.
articles, to create
Yes.
podcasts, to create social media posts and graphics. This is such a great support that actually you provide, and kind of a consultancy and advice to the clients, because I see many people actually don't realize that or at least people who don't organize events on a regular basis, or that event is just like a gold mine of content. Your event is done, but then now you have all this content until the next edition. So definitely, it's a very, very good that you help also provide insights on this. Um, we have Sophie joining from London. It was lovely to see you at IMEX, Sophie, this year. So thank you for joining the live. And yeah, so any questions? That's the time to ask. That our audience can ask. But I think you are so detailed, sir. Really not questions so far, covering all the ground. Um, yeah. So let's talk about kind of going the extra mile and creating this wow factor, exceeding the customer expectations. Tell me a couple of examples, give me some tips, maybe how to exceed customer expectations in the virtual environment.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you one thing. One of the questions had mentioned the term over delivery, and that is many times, which is something that is confused with exceeding your customers' expectations. I'll tell you one thing: there is not a single customer out there who is expecting you to over deliver. So to me, when I think about it, the entire concept of over delivery does not exist. Now, I'll tell you, but how do you create that wow experience? How do you go ahead and exceed the expectations? That is a different thing altogether, Irina. If there is a customer out there who paid you for a particular service and that service is being delivered to the customer is happy. But the customer would be wowed when you are anticipating things and providing it in a proactive format, right? For example, if you are able to think about something and come up with a contingency for which the customer never thought about, you are wowing that experience because the customer is simply going to be like, I never thought about that, right? But because you, as a client experience manager, probably may have witnessed that situation across the hundreds of events that you have managed, you are able to think about that yes, this is something that happened. So how you create a wow experience for the customer, how you exceed their expectations is You go ahead, you recognize their pain points, you give them solutions, you help them prep for contingencies even before they ask you about it. And for that, you need to get involved. You need to become a team member to your customer. You need to go ahead and understand what they are trying to do, what are their metric of success, and not just what is written in the playbook. So that is how you create wow experience according to me.
That's a very great way of looking at it. Yeah, you're right. I agree. The customer expects you to deliver what they pay for, what they ask for. And by anticipating their next request, or kind of not giving them this advice and sharing your knowledge, because you've been there, you've done it so many times, it's so valuable. Yeah, so we are up with our questions, and I take many good insights from the chat today, because you've highlighted the whole point, like all the points that are important in the customer journey, and especially pre, during, and after, and how you manage them. Do you have like any thoughts, any like last comments to add about customer experience? What is important? Yeah.
I'll just say one thing. I've used this word at least thrice throughout this conversation, and that is anticipating things. I've tied it to your preparedness. I've tied it to empathy. But I'll tell you why exactly we go ahead and do that. Why me and my entire team are a big fan of anticipation and proactiveness is because when you go ahead and do something for your customers uh, in a proactive manner, you are giving them two of the biggest and the most important things in the life of an event manager specifically, and you would understand this, Irina. The first, peace of mind,
Yeah.
right? And the second one is you're making it convenient for them. Right? Imagine you go ahead, you start working with a new platform. And that is the reason we have the whole concept of a designated client experience manager. That one client experience manager works with that particular client, and we do not do a round robin. When that client comes back, he's working with the same manager again. Now, imagine how would you feel when you did the first event? You spent 20 hours in terms of preparedness, training, going through those 3 weeks preparing the entire event. And the next time you're coming back, doing a second event with Hubilo, those 20 hours of preparedness remains intact because you're working with the exact same person again. That is the reason, we have recurring vendors, because they know what we want, and we are able to give them our expectations very clearly that you already know the A to B. Let's talk about C this time.
Yeah.
So that 20 hours, that investment of your time, it remains intact, and it is now giving you return every time you go ahead and do another event, one after another, with the same person.
It's a learning process, right? And you want to improve from every event. Sophie is sharing, Yuvraj and his team are great partners to the event planners, and they've seen so much they can offer great advice too. And we have a great question from Alexa. How can we measure the intangibles of the customer experience? How can we measure their feelings or intentions?
That is indeed a great question, Alexa, and that has been a question that during the early stages of Hubilo, when we were trying to create an entire client experience structure, that was a question that kept coming from my CEO, from the finance team, that how do you go ahead and measure things which are intangible, such as feelings or intentions or the frustration. So there are actually a few metrics available out there. The basic ones are NPS, customer satisfaction score, right? There are a few evolved metrics available as well, which is the customer effort score. You can also go ahead and look into the aging of a customer journey, that how much time a customer took from going from pre-event to during event support, or what was the number of hours invested, right? Because see, I'll tell you one thing, if a customer is asking you 300 questions in a span of 7 days, probably your onboarding was not effective enough. Because out of those 300, 150 at least should have been covered proactively by you as a service provider. So if it comes down to managing or measuring the intangibles of customer experience, uh, look at three things: how happy the customer is, uh, how much effort the customer is making in order to go ahead and use your product or learn about your product or execute something on your product. And the third one is refer to friend, or what is normally known in the industry as RTF, because that gives you a measure of how confident your customer is for referring your product or services to a friend or a colleague or in their social circle. Because I might be happy using you, but I'm just not confident enough that if I go ahead and refer Hubilo to someone and Hubilo messes up, it impacts my credibility. So refer to friend is a great measure.
That's a very good point. Very good answer. And I do have actually now another question. So when customers are not happy generally, they also don't leave feedback, they just leave. So how do you find this negative sentiment and how can you fix it?
So there are two important metrics on there. Now, what we are talking about again is anticipating how your customer is feeling about your product throughout their journey while they are not communicating with you. So you look at two things: how engaged you are with your customer and how engaged your customer is with you. And the second one is product adoption and usage. Now, these are a few metrics for which you would have to create an internal infrastructure which delivers you with that insights. There are many great platforms out there which are specifically meant for CX and gives you insights from either an AI powered mechanism or anything as such. But then yes, use of CRMs, it can give you an insight that if your customer is not logging into your product for the last 60 days, there is something wrong with it. It does not apply as much in terms of the events industry, because there is a complete possibility that an organizer might be doing an event once and not doing it for another 9 months. But then, yes, if they have an event coming up, they had an event coming up, you are expecting them to conduct an event and your customer is not using the product to its maximum extent, then you have to go ahead and one, introspect that have we informed our customer all about the product that can do, and two, if the customer is not engaging with your product as much as the customer should, maybe this is the time to go ahead and call in for an impromptu MBR or a QBR. That, hey, just wanted to check in. What exactly is going on? Are you good with the product? Is there any help that you need? Now, when you do this, you're being proactive.
Right. So yeah, two things I take from this interview: proactive and anticipation. Yeah.
Yes.
Great interview, great insights, Yuvraj. Thank you so much. You are the expert in customer experience, so I'm going to write a write-up on my blog to really break down all the points you talked about, because there's so many insights. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone who joined us today, and your questions, your comments. Everyone definitely can get in touch with you, right, on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
I will be launching an event on Hubilo in July. First planned date for the first session is the 14th of July. It will be a series, so it will be just several sessions per month. It will not be like a day-long event. It will be a series of events until the end of the year. Very excited about it. Very excited to work with your customer experience team. And I will be actually doing a vlog about it. So we'll be also documenting my journey and sharing my experience working with you throughout this.
Absolutely. I would
Fun.
just like to say one thing. You mentioned my team there, Irina. I'll tell you one thing. I got lucky with the team that I have. If I go ahead and assign you either of the 34 people that I have, I would be 100% confident in making that statement that I've assigned you a champ. Right. So I got lucky with the team that I have. Great chaps. They're very committed, very hardworking, and at the end of the day, all of them have one thing in common. they don't work for Hubilo, they don't work for our CEO, they don't work for our finance. They actually work for the customer.
Thank you very much. Definitely it comes through. Everyone is so passionate about the product, is very convinced, is very experienced. And from my side, I would add my favorite way to describe Hubilo is intuitive, because it's like social media. You are logging into your social media account and you just know kind of where to see, where to go, what to click, and where to schedule. So it's very, very important. Great, fantastic chat today. Thank you very much, everyone. Please go keep in touch with Yuvraj, connect with him on LinkedIn, ask your questions, work with Hubilo as well, and attend my event. And I'll see you then on the
Looking forward to attending that arena.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I'll bring you as a speaker as well, so you'll hear us again. Great,
Absolutely.
fantastic. So have a great day, everyone, and until next time.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining. You all should have an excellent day ahead, and Irina, you too.
Thanks.
Great connecting with you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.